Oke, aku menonton ini. Tadi lewat di beranda. Crimson Desert. Crimson Desert. Aku Zelda Innocent Video. Oh, jadi ini kayak gabungan Zelda dan Assassin's Creed. Kita coba nonton ya. Aku nggak tahu.
The bosses in Crimson Desert are powerful. I mean, really powerful. As the formidable Staglord grabbed me by the ankle and hurled me into a wall, the bone-crunching impact reminded me of how the strangest blows catapulted Kratos through tree trunks and mountains in God of War. This intense, deity-like physicality lends Crimson Desert's battles a sense of genuine spectacle. These are the gladiator battles of myths.
Iya, mirip sih.
Last month, during an hour-long hands-on session at Gamescom 2024, I was able to go toe-to-toe with 3 different bosses, each of which showcased a different side to this fantasy action
Bisa terbang sih. Zelda ini.
game's approach to battle. More recently, I was able to watch another hour of gameplay, this time a hands-off demonstration focused on exploration and questing. Together, these demos have given me a good indication of what Crimson Desert is. A game with combat that feels like a mix of God of War and Dragon's Dogma, set in a wider world
Dragon's Dogma mirip.
Where what you do is more reminiscent of the modern Assassin's Creeds and The Witcher 3. You play as Cliff, a warrior with a gruff Scottish accent and a no-nonsense attitude. After a prologue establishes a bloody conflict between the Greymanes and the marauding Black Bears, Cliff's major goal is made clear. Explore the continent of Pywell in search of his surviving Greymane allies who have been scattered following the battle.
Bagus kayaknya. Serius.
The bulk of the hands-off demonstration
Biasanya aku suka skeptical ya kalau game-game kayak begini.
is set in Hernand, a medieval town populated by a fun range of fantasy races that wouldn't look out of place in any Tolkien-esque fantasy story. Cliff's interactions around its very beautifully rendered streets and roads are very much what you'd expect of a modern
Lihat tuh. Pemandangannya. Keren juga ya.
open-world action-adventure game. There's a horse you can whistle for.
Ngeri cuy, ngeri. Kayaknya bagus ini game. Boleh aku coba.
NPCs to be spoken to and hostile regions to infiltrate. That last one is where Crimson Desert has a
bisa pakai kuda. The Witcher juga ini.
Little fun, as the demo shows Cliff changing into Hernandian banquet attire in order to walk past a castle's guards unnoticed.
Oh, wait. Seems like a permit. No clue where he got it.
We don't look like the troublemaking type.
Right, he can pass then.
Open a gate.
Much like how you can wear disguises in games like Hitman and Kingdom Come Deliverance. I hope there are plenty of opportunities to do this, and
Oh, bisa steal juga berarti. Apa game yang bisa steal? Assassin's Creed kayaknya.
Outcomes to your trickery. It would be fun if you could use disguises to open up new conversations, as well as gain entry into forbidden areas.
Nah, gitu sekalian aja brutal.
Inside the castle, Cliff pilfers an Abyss artifact, which is where Crimson Desert gets a little more unusual. The device opens up a pixelated portal in a wall, and
kalau yang nggak tahu, Crimson Desert ini katanya yang buat Black Desert Online. Tapi aku nggak pernah mainin sih. Black Desert Online nggak pernah main.
Walking through it transports Cliff to the Library of Providence. There, an alchemist called Aliston reveals that the library is at the center of all worlds, and that there are beings who plan to bring everything to nothingness.
What is the reason you brought me here?
There are beings who brought chaos to Providence. The rifts they have created will return everything to nothingness.
While I can't say I'm impressed by Crimson Desert's writing in this demo, this exchange and several others
Mungkin ceritanya ya oke lah gitu. Nggak yang bener-bener cerita yang bagus. Apanya? Penulisannya.
feel cluttered and wrapped up in themselves. But it does point to a much grander, more mythical plot beyond Cliff's hunt for his allies. That ambition of something larger is made abundantly clear when Alastin's ally, White Crow, gives Cliff the glider-like Crow Wings ability, which allows him to leap off the library's floating island and reenact the Zelda Tears of the Kingdom's title sequence.
Oh, Zelda banget. Bener. Bisa terbang.
It's a little bold to use
Tuh,
this
kan?
motif. Can developer Pearl Abyss really craft something that lives up to the wider meaning of that iconic visual? But even if it falls short,
Berarti banyak banget ya. Dari Assassin's Creed, The Witcher, Dragon's Dogma, Zelda. Banyak banget.
the magnificent view and subsequent glide to Earth is a thrill all the same.
Oh, jadi
Back on the
gagap.
ground in Hernand, a local peacekeeper tasks Cliff with finding and eliminating some local bandits who fight using a red mist. Heading out in search of such villains, Cliff comes across a burning house and throws nearby vases of water to save the clergyman trapped inside.
Baldur's Gate ini.
It's not clear from the demo if such objectives organically occur around the
Lempar
map,
air.
Red Dead Redemption 2 style, but what is soon clear is that
Oh,
this
Red Dead.
blaze is the work of those aforementioned bandits. The local church says one of their men, Hubert, fled the scene in
Semoga objektif atau questnya itu mirip-mirip seperti The Witcher 3 gitu. Jadinya nggak apa ya, monoton gitu, yang gitu-gitu aja. Jadinya setiap quest ada keunikan tersendiri gitu. Itu sih yang bagus.
an attempt to bait the enemies away, and asks Cliff to find him. The payment is another one of those Abyss artifacts, once again suggesting that the worlds beyond worlds are of vital importance to Crimson Desert's story. I hope this results in a decent amount of weirdness that helps set the largely typical setting apart from other fantasy games.
I can't believe it.
Hubert is found at a bandit camp that allows the demo to show off Cliff's stealth abilities. It's pretty classic stuff and looks very reminiscent of silent takedowns in the Assassin's Creed games. Not particularly challenging, but an alternative option to Crimson Desert's more publicised melee brawls. Hopefully when we go hands-on again, stealth will prove a worthwhile addition rather than a shallow tacked-on extra. With Herbert freed, Cliff is approached by the goblin Shakatu, a merchant of the Gold Leaves Guild. He explains that the Gold Leaves are currently under the command of the evil Splithorn. In return for killing this toxic leader, Shakatu offers money and his services, things Cliff believes will be helpful in finding the missing Greymanes.
I merely wish us to turn over a new leaf. A return to our former glory.
Arriving at the Goldleaf camp, it quickly becomes clear how all these quests are
Nah,
linked.
kalau
The
aku lihat ini
Goblin
yang
Guards
rame-rame
use-
gini mirip The Witcher 3.
red mist as part of their battle tactics, and so reveal themselves as the very same miscreants that were causing trouble
Ngamuk
for the
banget.
people of
Ngeri juga
Hernand.
musuhnya.
And so Splithorn's death not only allows Shakatu to take over and help Cliff, but also fulfills the task set by the Peacekeeper back in town. I hope Crimson Desert features plenty more of these overlapping storylines and forms a wider narrative that feels enjoyably
Brutal
interlaced.
juga nih.
That would certainly make up for the uneven quality of the writing shown in the demo. Splithorn acts as the culminating boss fight of the hands-off demo, which brings us to the much more exciting side of Crimson Desert. He's
Oh, ini
agile
boss
and
nih.
aggressive, wielding a sword that emits blasts of wind in vertical
Keren. Ditonton banyak orang kayak
and
gladiator gitu.
horizontal patterns, forcing Cliff to dodge and block as he attempts to close the distance. But he's a pipsqueak compared to the brutes I face myself in the hands-on demo at Gamescom. The first of the three bosses I clashed with was the Stag Lord. He's a relentless attacker, charging across the battlefield like a bullet train that can suplex you at its final destination. But despite his endless strength and capacity to throw you like a baseball, he's only human. I forced distance between us, quickly firing explosive arrows to knock him out of his
kebanyakan apa namanya, partikel gitu loh. Bagus memang. Contohnya kayak di gameplaynya Monster Hunter Wilds, waktu petir nyambar itu ada partikel-partikel, itu keren sih. Tapi kalau terlalu banyak jadi kayak menghalangi gitu nggak sih? Menghalangi. Padahal gameplaynya smooth banget loh. Tapi terlalu banyak partikel. Lihat ya.
His attack pattern and open up a window to bury my blade in his back. The Stag Lord proves a real challenge of a
Partikelnya
fight.
sana,
Crimson Desert is not even remotely a
sana kemari cuy,
Souls-like, but it's not
partikel.
afraid to make you work really
Jadi nggak
hard for victory.
kelihatan
I
gitu.
spend much of the lengthy fight learning the complexities of its combat system. Similar
Ini
to this
bagus
year's
sih
Dragon's Dogma 2, there's no
sebenarnya.
lock-on, and so I have to be mindful of where I
Oh, nggak
position
ada
Cliff
lock
and
on.
where his sword will land.
Ya
Rolling forward
kalau ada lock on terus bisa guling, Souls-like dong ya.
allows me to instantly follow up with a sweep kick that surprises my foe, and then hitting both the light and heavy attack buttons together unleashes a wide, particle effect spraying strike that cleaves a chunk out of the Stag Lord's health bar. All this is speedy without sacrificing weight. It feels fantastic, but it's also easy to let things run away from you. I soon realise I need to be chowing down on health restoring food with addiction-like frequency.
Waduh,
Join the
iklan.
guild on one condition.
What is it? We'll do anything.
Kick that loser.
Nice.
With the Stag Lord defeated, I take
Dan
his
tak
mighty
udah
sword and
mati.
shield, and the demo skips me ahead in the story, throwing me into snow-coated lands. Here, Cliff is looking for children who have seemingly been sacrificed to some kind of mountain spirit. Such a spirit turns out to be the White Horn, a sort of antlered, abominable
Yeti,
snow
Yeti.
deer that acts as the first showcase of just how different each of Crimson Desert's bosses can be. This colossal creature moves like a bucking bronco, and its galloping charges cause the mountains around us to break out in miniature avalanches that leave me
Partikelnya banyak banget.
temporarily frozen in place.
Tapi
Thankfully,
keren sih.
after striking it so much that its white fur is stained almost completely red, I'm able
Pengen nyobain sih jadi. Kayaknya bagus sih. Semoga ada duitnya nanti.
to clamber onto its back in the fight's second phase and stab away at its flesh. The moment once again had me recalling my battles with towering monsters in Dragon's Dogma 2 earlier this year.
Hei. Dragon's Dogma jadi.
Unlike the
bener.
little split horn back at the Goblin camp, these much larger bosses have 3 health bars, with each one eliminated increasing the intensity of the fight. But where the Stag Lord and White Horn scraps seem to escalate much like many other action game boss battles, my final battle against the Queen Stoneback Crab demonstrated Crimson Desert's ambition to create
Apa
memorable moments through very different mechanics. The Queen Stoneback Crab is colossally big. It fills the screen, and smartly, you can't fight it by just hacking away at its shins. Instead, the battle is a puzzle set piece that's clearly inspired by Shadow of the Colossus. I clamber onto the
Shadow
crab's
Colossus.
stony
Nggak pernah main Shadow of Colossus, tapi ini Zelda. Yang kalau kalian mainin ya, naikin musuhnya yang batu besar gitu, terus hancurin batu kelemahannya. Ya itu kayaknya. Lebih mirip itu sih menurut aku.
shell and grab onto the grass
Tuh.
and flora that forms its fur, holding on
kan.
for dear life
Mirip
while pulling
Zelda.
myself up towards a trio of rock formations. Using a special punch skill, I shatter each of the rocks to expose a weak point that I plunge my blade into. Each open wound causes a geyser of water to blast
yang
out,
tadi.
which not only provides a visual spectacle, but also throws me high into the
terbang.
air. From above, I'm able to float
Bagus,
down
menarik,
using the
menarik,
Crow
menarik.
Wings ability and plan on how to tackle the next stage. Now I'm tasked with destroying the pottery-like crown at the peak of the crab's mountain-like shell. A task completed by swinging Spider-Man style from a web at the
Berat
peak
apa
of the
tuh?
crab's mountain-like shell. A task
Jadi mungkin bisa banyak senjata. Aku pengennya sih ya bisa pakai jenis senjata yang lain gitu, kayak Great Sword atau dual pedang gitu. Aku pengennya begitu sih. Soalnya aku sering pakai yang berat-berat guys, kayak dual sword. Itu di Dark Souls dulu aku sering pakai sih. Sama di Nioh juga aku pakai yang Great Sword.
Completed by swinging Spider-Man style from a web and colliding with the pottery at full speed. It's all delightfully bonkers.
Bisa gitu ya?
Delightfully Spider-Man style
Ini-
from a web
Bentar.
and colliding with the pottery at full speed. It's
Spider-Man cuy. Spider-Man juga ini. Bro.
all
Berapa banyak
delightfully
game ini?
bonkers.
Wow, keren sih.
My hour-long session wasn't quite
Itu keren banget sih.
long enough to try all 4 of the bosses the demo had to offer, but a video presentation provided a quick insight into the only one I missed, the Reed Devil, a weird little guy who
Apa?
creates copies of himself that can only be defeated by destroying
Devil.
totems that are built during the battle. Along with the 3 I fought, all 4 bosses make a promise that Crimson Desert features an array of creative, unique centerpiece
Oi.
battles. If they're all like this, then Pearl Abyss could really have something special on its hands. I'm similarly impressed by the
Kayaknya
combat
menarik.
system's fundamentals.
Menarik.
Yes, it's all quite Fantasy 101. Bows, swords, shields, parries, but it's all delightfully aggressive and properly impactful. There's a seemingly deep
aggressive
combo
banget ini.
system too, and it's because of that I wish the demo had had a section that was a little more relaxed for me to sample. The heat of a relentless boss battle isn't quite the space to learn and perfect button sequences, but I've got a good feeling you can pull off some cool stuff based on the combos that I did learn. It's a big green light for Crimson Desert's combat then. As for its adventuring chops, things are looking a little more conventional. Pearl Abyss certainly
Whoa, whoa,
seems to be
whoa.
making a solid enough transition
Keren apa yang tadi ditendang.
from the MMORPG design of Black Desert Online into single-player territory. But I don't think
Enggak pernah mainin Black Desert Online, tapi ini keren. Aku kurang suka MMO sebenarnya. Tapi ini
anything shown in the hands-off demo particularly
semoga
breaks
aku
new
bisa
ground.
mainin.
Much of it is very familiar if you've played the likes of Assassin's Creed or The Witcher 3. Nonetheless, it does look largely well put together. While I do hope that the Abyss artifact storyline goes suitably off the wall, I'd like to see the more typical fantasy storylines find suitable hooks to ensure regular gameplay feels more varied and creative than what we've seen so far. With a combat system that shifts from classic sword and board action to slingshotting Spider-Man style round a walking mountain, the questing and
Spider-Man.
exploration side of Crimson Desert ideally also needs to aspire to that kind of diversity.
Pengen
But even
coba
if it
aku.
doesn't, this latest slice of gameplay certainly suggests that the bridges between epic boss battles will be solid, if not the most memorable aspect of the experience. For more from Crimson Desert, check out the entire 52
Keren. Menurut aku keren. Campuran banyak-banyak game gitu. Aku pertama lihat mungkin ya biasa aja gitu ya. Tapi setelah lihat campuran Dragon's Dogma, tapi ada Spider-Man-nya juga gitu, gimana? Kayaknya menarik sih. Menurut kalian gimana? Apakah menarik? Kalau aku bakal nyobain sih. Semoga aja ada uang. Aku mau nanti ke depannya kita bisa milih banyak senjata gitu. Karena aku nggak terbiasa sama yang sword and shield. Nggak terbiasa aku. Biasanya pakai dual sword gitu. Biasanya aku juga pakai great sword. Karena ya keren aja gitu dan berat. Aku suka yang berat-berat sih. Oke, mungkin itu aja dari aku. See you guys in next video. Peace.